Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank the organizers, in particular the three authorities who invited us here in Tunisia to this very interesting workshop. And I have to apologize because my French is not good enough to have a speech and not to say about Arabic, unfortunately. So my speech will be in English. The objective of my talk is to provide you with my view about the evolution of telecommunications from now on, let's say until 2020, in order to put a framework around what is going on and what the regulators have to consider for the future. Mainly I will concentrate about the evolution of Internet, and you will see from one of the first slides what is the reason for doing this in a perspective of 5 or more years from now on. Well, this is something we know. Traffic is booming, especially in Internet. The expectation for the year 2000, these are data taken from the Cisco VNI document, is that the Internet users will grow until worldwide until more than 4 billion, the mobile user to 5.5 billion, and the devices, connected devices, will be more than 4 times the number of humans using mobile services. What is important for us to see is that the video traffic in Internet will be is foreseen to be 82% of the overall traffic. So the wideband, the ultra-wideband traffic in Internet is becoming the dominant part. But this is not something for the future. This is also for today. What's the situation today? I took the situation in United States because this gives us the idea of what is the traffic in the most advanced country from this point of view. And what you can see from this slide is that the peak traffic is already very high. Let's pick up only a few figures. The red bars are the entertainment traffic, which is mostly video, and in fixed networks is already 70% of the overall traffic, while in the mobile networks it's more than 40%. If you only consider 2 OTT, over-the-top operators, Netflix and YouTube, on both fixed and mobile networks, the aggregate today in United States is almost 40% of the traffic. So it is certain that the video traffic is going to dominate the traffic on the networks. And this will increase at a compounded annual growth rate of about 35% from now on. So what's the consequence of this? The consequence of this is that the design of networks must change from the past Internet, which was the low bitrate Internet, to the Internet of the future that will be a very high bitrate Internet. This is unavoidable because otherwise congestions will increase everywhere in the world. So all operators around the world are changing the way to design networks. In the past, the design of the internet was based on some concepts that were overall defined as quality of service key performance indicators. These quality of service indicators are mostly at low layer levels, are parameters at low layer levels, while in the networks that we are going to design, we must consider what are called quality of experience indicators. In a sense, these are simpler, because essentially what we need is to consider application throughput and download time. These are the two most important parameters to consider, and these are at upper layers of the internet. Let us consider, for example, what's going on for the future video services. For the future video services, let's say the 4K Ultra HD, the bit rate, which is the measure at physical layer, is about 20-30 megabits per stream, while if we go to the 8K standard, the speed at the physical layer increase 4 times the value I said before. When we have these very high values of bit rate, normally what happens that in the present networks, the actual throughput for the application, so the let's say the rate that we deliver to the application is very low with respect to this gross rate we have at physical layer. So there is a big inefficiency that must be recovered. If we don't recover this inefficiency, the cost of the network increases very much. And there is another effect. The other effect that you see in the boxes below is that the delay tends also to increase in the delivery of the service. And the delay is one very important parameter for the service providers. For example, if we have 1 second delay in one e-commerce page download time, there is only 7%. There is a 7% loss of conversion, which means that 7% of the users do not buy. Simply do not buy. There is 11% of fewer page views, so the users quit. 11% of users quit. And all the overall of these effects are a loss of revenues for the application providers, so the delay must be low. And the parameters are essentially the application throughput, which is different from the bit rate, and the download time that is related to the throughput. This is interesting, in my opinion, because shows what is the relationship between the gross bit rate at physical layer and the throughput at application layer. When we go to video services, this ratio between the throughput and the radio bit rate is very low. You see the average value is about 35% worldwide. What does this mean? That we try to provide very high bit rate, so we afford big costs in designing the networks, but of this bit rate we provide, only 1/3 is really useful. All the rest is wasted. And this turns out to be a waste in value, in money. So what is the solution? Of course, the solution is to increase this ratio. And the networks that we are going to design for the future tend to increase this ratio. How is this done? Oh, first of all, let us see another point. The delay is important in a future perspective, certainly because of what we said before, the better performance for video services, which is the point B in the box below. There is another reason why we have to reduce the delays in the networks. The other reason is that there are new services coming in the future that intrinsically need low delay, and these are services that need a very fast interaction between the user, the mobile user, and the network. There are services in which the feedback must be very fast. For example, if you have a car that is controlled by the network, the movement of the car is controlled by the network. In this case, the delay must be very short. This has nothing to do with the video, but both performance requirements go in the same direction. And what you see in the right side, in the upper part, are the new services that are going to be delivered by the so-called 5th generation mobile network. In this case, you see that the delay must be in the order of 1 millisecond. This is not at all what we get in the networks of today, which is not better than 10 milliseconds. So we have to have very short delays. This we can skip. What's the point? To get all these advantages, we have to change the structure of the networks from networks as today that are based on what is called the silos paradigm, in which all services have dedicated resources in the network. We have dedicated resources for mobile, and inside mobile for different generations. We have dedicated resources for services, for voice services, and so on. In the future, this cannot happen. We must have all IP services for all these kind of applications. So the network platform must be unique for all these, and this is what is going on now in the future. How can we reduce how can we increase the applications throughput? We can increase this application throughput, which is our objective, by reducing the delay. RTT means round trip time, so the delay, the two-way delay in the network. And we can also do this reducing packet loss in the network, but reducing packet loss is more difficult than reducing delay. So normally the design of the network goes in the direction of reducing the delay. this chart shows pictorially what we are going to do. If we want the improvement of quality of experience for the user, we must have higher application throughput, and this requires essentially two things. Higher bit rate, of course, because the application is very demanding in terms of bandwidth or bit rates. So this needs what is called the NGN, next generation network access, and the 5G and all the technologies that we are developing. But this is not enough. If we only do this to increase the bit rate at low level, we will have poor results if we don't change the way we design all the internet, because of that 35% of throughput versus the bit rate. So what we need to reduce the round trip time, we need essentially to use content networks closer to the end users, and the use of cloud very close to the end user. This is what's going on, and is shown in the lower part of the chart. In the lower part of the chart, we see that certain devices, certain equipment that normally are not inside the deeper part of the network, the one that goes through the user, are now more and more included in the local networks, and especially this is what happens for cloud servers that are put closer to the users, and other equipment such as the TCP accelerators and the caching equipment, which we will talk later. This table shows an interesting result. These are measured results. Let us consider that we want that we have a 50 megabit per second bit rate. What's the result when we have the servers located at the different sections in the network? If the bit rate is fixed, 50 megabit in this case, what we have for the user is not really 50 megabit per second bit rate. What we have for the application is what I called the application throughput, which is much less than this value, and it depends on where is located the server that provides this speed. So if we have a local server, so very close to the user, we have a latency that is 1.6 millisecond in the example, and we can deliver 44 megabit per second real throughput for the user, vis-a-vis the 50 megabit that was the bit rate. So a reduction, but not so large. If we put the server very far, and this is the case of the lower line, for example, in a different continent with almost 100 millisecond delay, you see the bit rate, the real bit rate you provide to the user goes to 0.4 megabit per second. So you lose almost all your speed in the network. So it's very important for video networks for the future to have servers very close to the user. And this changes the structure of the internet. the internet of the future will not be the same as in the past, essentially due to this problem, because the traffic changes shape, is video traffic. If it is video traffic, we cannot afford to have servers very far. We have to have servers very close to the user. So the servers...
Mr. Franco, 3 minutes.
We are going to a modification of the network worldwide in order to include this kind of equipment because of this requirement. Today, to make an example, the 4G network, which is the most advanced mobile network we have in the world, this is the architecture, is not yet a network having these criteria, because in the part, in the backhaul part closer to the user, it's not possible for technical reason to put this kind of equipment, servers closer to the user. So what are going to do the international organizations that are regulating 3GPP and others, UET regulating all this, is to eliminate this kind of blocks in the part of the network that is closer to the user in order to put this kind of equipment providing a lower delay. So this is what is going on in the modification of the network in order to put this kind of new equipment that are not included in the traditional internet. Just to have an example, this case shows how this practically can be implemented. Assume, as is in the upper part of the slide, that you have servers in the big internet, wherever they are, in United States or wherever. And these are assumed to provide a video service to you. But we are very far from United States, so the video service does not arrive with good quality. So what can we do? What must we do? We must have, and you see in the lower left part of the slide, we see that we have to put some equipment that are caching equipment that capture the content coming from far and are able to relay this content to the user from a position that is closer to the user itself. So this changes the structure of the internet at upper levels, above the IP level. By doing this, we can have a better quality of experience. To be clear, this is what are doing today already OTTs, let's say Netflix or others, that are trying to put or to use content more close to the user, otherwise they cannot provide the quality that we already have in this case. Sorry? I go to the end of the presentation. What is the effect of this modification of the internet? Of course, there are technical issues, but which is most important is the economical and the business effect of this. The business effect is as follows. First of all, we must consider, as people say, content is king. From this point of view, we can say that quality of experience is king. Otherwise, content is not delivered properly. So if quality of experience for the user is king, what we see is that best effort, which was the old internet, is not sufficient to meet the requirements, and we have to go to an all IP scenario, and we have to distribute these platforms and the cloud services inside the domestic networks. And to do this, and this also allows us to provide differentiated quality for the different services that need different quality. And what is the result of this? The result of this is that the content provider becomes to be more happy of the delivery of the service provided by the telco, which owns the part of the network that is closer to the user. And if the content provider is more happy because has more clients satisfied with their quality, the model changes completely, the business model changes completely, and we go to a model that is the one shown below. Instead of having a one-sided business model such as the one we have today, we will go to a two-sided business model in which the content provider can redirect some part of the revenues to the network provider, because the network provider is offering a service for his increase of quality. So, as you see, the network is changing. We must take this into account because the requirements are changing. So we have to take into account directly the quality at the level of applications, and this has a lot of consequences in terms of business. For example, fixed and mobile networks are going to integrate, so this is one part of the convergence. The network management is going to be simplified. There will be less time to market for the content providers, and of course improved service performance. The total cost of ownership will be lower with this kind of networks, and also the use of the ultra broadband access, the fiber and whatever, will be much better monetized. Thank you very much.
Thank you.